السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. A couple of days ago, my husband Imam Mahdi asked me to speak about the topic, and I was hoping there'll be there are many experienced scholars here who can speak on this. But I was told to talk, so inshallah I will share a few points with yourselves. And I thought it would be good if there was a really small article that I came across about Isa alayhi salam. A couple of points, important points about Isa alayhi salam's life. So I thought I'd read to the Majma', and then as we go along we'll make some points. So obviously, why is it important that we speak about the topic of Isa alayhi salam? Many of you might be wondering why we've been speaking about it all. It's because we live in a country where there are many different religions. And when there are different religions, a lot of times our beliefs and our ideologies and our beliefs become diluted and can become diluted. So it's important that we know the difference, what our religion says, what other religions say, what the truth is. And many of us have attended and still are attending schools where different faiths, and they come across different things. For example, in my evening class that I have, one of the students, we were covering a book about Isa alayhi salam, and he was surprised to know that Isa alayhi salam did have a father, and he was genuinely surprised that I didn't know that. And he's at the age of, he's 15 years old now. So had he been a young child, understandable, but he's a 15-year-old he's a smart kid, mashallah. But he was surprised that he's a son. I don't know how. So even people who live in this so-called partly abused Sharif have this sort of understanding. So it's really important that we do cover these topics. And also this could be a form of dawah, because you'll be surprised that many Christians, non-Muslims, do not know that we also believe in Isa alayhi salam as a prophet. And once they hear this, it opens their minds and eyes, and suddenly they feel closer to the religion of Islam. And many times what happens is they will accept Islam after hearing this. So half of the bayan Muhammad was already covered, half of what I prepared for Maryam alayhi salam. So obviously the birth of Isa alayhi salam was miraculous. And he was born without a father. So there's some differences mentioned here. In the Christian scriptures you'll find that Maryam alayhi salam was engaged to someone known as Joseph. So the difference between marriage and engaged is, I hope you all know, but the difference is that engaged is you're still not in the state of marriage where you're planning to get married. Whereas in the Islamic scriptures there's no such thing as Maryam alayhi salam was not engaged to anyone. And there is no mention in Islamic scriptures about the 3 wise men. We hear this a lot of the time, the 3 wise men, and then somehow they'll be following some sort of a star. There's some basis in Islam. And like Imam Sahib mentioned, that Isa alayhi salam, his birth was underneath a tree. When Maryam alayhi salam was about to give birth, she was scared about what the people were going to say. Because I've been devoted my life to worship Allah in the masjid, and all of a sudden I have a baby now. So a couple of miles she went away from Masjid al-Aqsa, and the place where she went to was now known as Bethlehem, or in Arabic, Baytul Laham, and that is where she gave birth. Even in school, in nativity plays, or even we might have seen, they show that Isa Islam was born and on what you call a manger. A manger is a place where you keep the food for the animals. So you see this nativity plays where Isa Islam is placed on that manger, Whereas Islamically, this has no basis. Islam was born after Muhammad travelled a couple of miles away from Masjid Aqsa, and right underneath the tree. She was underneath the tree, she was in pain, she was in agony. And Jibreel Islam from above called out to her, do not panic, Allah is there for you. And she was told to shake the tree, and the dates fell, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a stream flow in front of her. And that was the state of how she conceived. Islam was conceived. So Isa Islam's life is, as we all know, I was thinking as well, what is there to actually speak about, because we all know about Isa Islam. But obviously when Isa Islam was born, Bani Islam was now scared that what are the people going to say? What are the people going to say about myself? That have I committed adultery? Na'udhu billah. So she was told that point towards the child and let them know that I can't speak, the child is going to speak. So the Banu Israel, just like how Muslims, as we have, our fasting includes not eating and drinking, not being involved in cohabitation. So Banu Israel had something else, which was you cannot speak. So when she went to the people, she did through like sign language that I am fasting, and she pointed towards the baby. Upon this, the people thought, how can a baby speak? So then, miraculously, the baby spoke. And this is mentioned in the Quran as fil Mahdi wa kahla, that he will speak in the cradle and whilst he is mature. There's one point to note here, fil Mahdi wa kahla, is that many people, when it comes to regards to Isa alayhi salam, about when he will return. So this ayat, some people have opined and said that this ayat actually is a reference, or you could say opines and directs us towards the return of Isa Islam, because someone speaking in cradle is something, we're surprised. If you see a baby speaking, we're surprised. But what is so special about someone speaking while he's mature? Someone's mature, he speaks. What is so special about that? Obviously, there has to be something that will be special, and that is when Isa Islam will return and then he speaks. Now that would be miraculous. Now moving on, when Isa Islam became older, he started preaching, and Isa Islam is also known as Masih. And one reason why they give his call as Masih is because he will travel a lot. So Isa Islam doesn't have any fixed residence. He used to travel to different places and preach the religion. So in Christianity, you have the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is known as the Torah. So when Isa alayhi salam came, the Jews had left the teachings of the Torah. So he came to teach them the Torah and basically confirm the teachings of the Torah. And he was also given the Injil. So he came at a time when the Jews were no longer practicing on the faith. They had been corrupted. The scholars have been corrupted. The people away from Deen, the people were killing the prophets, had killed the prophets prior to Isa Islam. So in the scriptures of the Jewish scriptures, they have a mention of there will be two Masih, the guided one and the misguided one. So when Isa Islam came, they thought he was, or they perceived him as the misguided Masih, the misguided one. In other words, they thought he was the Dajjal. This is one of the reasons, and this is one of the reasons why this led to the execution of Isa Islam. Obviously, as we Muslims know it, he was executed. Someone else in his place executed, but in their eyes or in their experience, they thought it was him. So when Isa Islam actually returns, they will think this is the guided Masih. That's why we understand the hadith when the Prophet mentions a number of Jews following the Isa alayhi salam. And this is because they are still waiting for the guided Masih. They don't believe Isa Islam was a prophet. They think he was the misguided Masih. So a lot of times happens, you can compare, all the Prophet lives of the Prophets, you can compare them with each other. So when the Prophet ﷺ, when a lot of people did not like him or they still knew that he's not a liar. He's not a liar. The reason why they believe in him because of jealousy. They thought if we accept him as a prophet, then our imara, or our form of control of these people will go. So the reason was not because they wanted to follow the truth, it's because they wanted the world dunya. That is why they never believed in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The head of the Munafiqs, this is the same reason why he hated the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was because just before the arrival of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was going to be made the head, the king of the people. And now the Prophet arrived, all eyes were on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, everyone was following him. So because of this, he hated the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Similarly, in times when the Isa alayhi salam came, many of the corrupted folks, the leaders, they thought if we believe in Isa alayhi salam, then we will no longer have control over the people. This is the reason why he was persecuted and it led to his execution. So Isa alayhi salam, obviously, in the story was revealed to him that they're planning to execute you. So his time was near. Now some people mention that, some Mu'arrikhin historians like Ibn have mentioned that when they finally surrounded the house where Isa alayhi salam was, the one narration is that a soldier entered into the house, and in the Quran Allah has mentioned وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ, the likeness of him was made, the likeness of Isa alayhi salam was made, and the soldier's face or his appearance changed into Isa alayhi salam, and then this is the person that was executed. And other narrations have mentioned that Isa alayhi salam, and this is also mentioned in even their scriptures, that one of his disciples took the place of Isa alayhi salam. He sacrificed himself for Isa alayhi salam. Now, Isa alayhi salam was the Jews and the Christians, in Judaism and Christianity, they do not believe that Isa alayhi salam was not crucified. They all believe that Isa alayhi salam was crucified. Whereas the Muslims believe Isa alayhi salam was not crucified, but he was, the ascension took place. Now the beauty of the Quran is, the Quran, as we know, is just like when we, many a time when we ponder about the universe, the world, we see how complex and dynamic the whole universe is. In science we hear the nuclei bones, if the number is 0.07, if it was 0.06, 0.08, they will exist. And there are many more examples. But whenever we look at the Quran, just think of it as we revere the Quran, but we never think of it as complex. Whereas the being that created this complex universe, these are his words. So how complex must the words be? So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he mentions this ayat, so that what is Islamic belief? If you go back to Quran, Allah has mentioned وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صُلُبُوهُ, that they never killed him and they never crucified him. So because the Quran is to come to the day of Qiyamah, and just a side note came to my mind on the fact that the Quran is for till the day of the Qiyamah. Many a time we think, obviously, as we go closer to the day of Qiyamah, the tribulations will increase, it will be difficult for us to act upon the deen. A lot of times we give up, we think there's no hope in humanity anymore, there's no hope, there's nothing we can do, we just accept it changes. But in the Quran, Allah has mentioned كُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, that be with the people of Sidq, in other words, the pious people. So because the Quran is still the Qiyamah, this also will mean that there will always be Sadiqeen to the end of Qiyamah. So it doesn't matter how bad or how many tribulations come at us, there will always, if someone searches for the people, the righteous people, he will always find them. So that was just, I was digressing there on the side note. So in the Quran, when Allah mentions this, he only mentions وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ, they never crucified him once. But the وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ, they never killed him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the verse twice. And this just shows the mu'jiz, how miraculous the Quran is. So, up until recently, the last 1 century, 2 centuries, there was someone known as Imam Ahmad, who this person was a very sinister and evil person, and he has caused many people to fall astray. So he mentioned, now he has a different take on this. He mentioned he believes in the crucifixion. He said that the Isa Islam was crucified, but he never died. So what we see here in the Quran is everyone, whether it's the Christians, whether it's Judaism, whether it's the Qadianis, they all believe that he was crucified. So there was no need to emphasize that in the Quran. Allah mentioned it once, وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. But when it comes to regards to the death, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ, Allah mentioned it twice. So this Qadian, he mentions that he never died on the cross, and he was somehow revived, and then he moved to the next part, most comical, he moved to Kashmir, and that's where he died. So alhamdulillah, we're very blessed. A lot of times in Bali, we're very blessed that we have so many great scholars, and we don't put that off, and we don't be grateful for the amount of scholars that we have. Just in our masjid, we have Hazmullah Baruch Sahib, may Allah preserve him and give him a long life. His Hazrat's great-great-grandfather was one of the first people to actually have a dialogue with this Kafir and Mulhid, Ahmad Qadiani, and it's inside a book called Baghi Arif. And it's an interesting dialogue, and it also shows you what kind of foolish person this Qadiani was. Just to give you an example, during the conversation, he asked, the Qadiani claims that he is Isa. So obviously in his life there was evolution. The evolution had to happen in his life in like 60 years. He kept on changing his beliefs. So he claimed in that dialogue that I am the Isa. And then the Hazrat asked him, and objector said that, but Isa Islam is going to kill the Dajjal. And the answer that he gives still makes me laugh to this day. He says that the Dajjal is Christianity. It's not a person, it's Christianity. And killing it will mean that I basically defend Islam by objecting Christianity. So I've killed Dajjal. This is just the tip of the iceberg of this evil person. So these people, so he came along and he also included stuff in regards to Isa alayhi salam. So no matter what kind of different beliefs people have about Isa alayhi salam, there might be another group that comes and says he was crucified, he died, and they might have another spin on this. But the Quran has told us, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ, that they never killed him and they never crucified him. Now this that comes up to the end of the life of Isa alayhi salam. There are obviously many more points to explore and explain, but this is just a brief view of Isa alayhi salam's life. Now moving on to in regards to the ascension and ascension of Isa alayhi salam. Due to social media and due to the amount of information we can access, many youngsters get confused. Well, all of us, not only youngsters, we all get confused what is the reality. Someone's saying, someone on the social media is saying he's not coming back. The professor saying he's dead. We hear all sorts, we get confused. But when it comes to deen, we do not look at deen rationally, just through the lens of logic. There is a person who has still causes to some extent a lot of confusion with youngsters. He's a certain mufti from Birmingham. Sadly, these days we have to actually mention the names because they are because if there were like 2 or 3 people that were mentioning this kind of stuff, we will understand straight away. It's because the list of people mentioning deviant ideas is long, so the person doesn't know which one it is. So this person is from Birmingham. he rationalized everything. And many people who do not have not read or studied any scholars or Saudi scholars, they say this makes sense. He's a very logical person, this. Not like the mullahs in the masjid who are rational all. Whereas the basis of our shariat is not the rationality and the intellect. Rather it is the Quran and the Hadith. So we have to look at the Quran and Hadith is same. So in regards to Isa alayhi salam, when it comes to his ascension and his descension, that is something that is unanimous. That is unanimous inside the Ummah. And in the science of Hadith, the Hadith about Isa alayhi salam's return is something known as mutawatir. This is mutawatir. You many times might hear someone say this Hadith is da'if. We all hear this Hadith is da'if, this is sahih. But when something reaches the level of mutawatir, you no longer discuss whether the narrations are sahih or da'if is accepted, and you can no longer criticize the narrations. So whether your intellect agrees or does not agree, it's not forgot, does it affect the hadith and the narrations? So because we live in an era where people always ask reference, even though they may not understand the reference. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's like when you go to the doctor and you give him, he prescribes you with medicine, and then you ask him why you prescribing this, what are the reasons, how does it affect me? We don't ask him about, because this is not, we're not, even if you was to explain to us, we wouldn't understand, because that is not our field. But there are many, so just to quickly mention, there might be some people who have heard some people saying there's not in the Quran Hadith, just to clear the mind, clear the doubts. So in regards to Isa alayhi salam's return, the likes of Ibn Hajar have mentioned in his Talqis Habib that he is alive with his body. He is alive with his body. This is a unanimous decision of the people of Tafsir and Hadith. The likes of Ibn Kathir have dedicated a full chapter in his Tafsir in regards to Isa alayhi salam's return, and he said the Hadith are mutawatir. They have reached a stage that you can no longer deny them. They are mentioned in all the books of Hadith, the Siyah Sitta, Imam Muslim Ahmad. When 30 Sahaba mentioned this Hadith, even one Sahaba mentioning a Hadith is of great importance and value. There were over 30 Sahaba mentioning the Hadith of the twin of Isa alayhi salam. Allama Kashmiri rahimahullah has written a full book on this, and he's mentioned over 100 athar and a hadith in regards to his return. And a great Syrian scholar, Sheikh Abdullah Buddha, has made addition of more tafasir. And this is just, there are many more opinions, narrations, people mentioning the hadith being mutawatir. This is not an extensive list, but a short list. So I don't thought it would be appropriate if I mention something about Imam Mahdi. Now this is another thing where a lot of people on social media are getting confused about, or will get confused in the future. So the narrations about Imam Mahdi are also mutawatir. The narrations about Imam Mahdi are also mutawatir. As you narrated about over 20 Sahaba. Likes of Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, Ali radiallahu anhu, likes of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. Great scholars like Imam Suyuti, Imam Safarini, Imam Sakhawi, Imam Qurtubi have all mentioned the ijma' on this, about the arrival of Imam Mahdi. He mentioned in the books of Ahmad, Bazzar, Tabarani, Abu Ya'la, Ibn Abi Shayba, Hakim, Ibn Taymiyyah, and Hafiz Zahabi mentioned the hadith in regard to Imam Mahdi, or Sahih, there are Sahih hadith in regards to him. So if you come across anything on social media, it's either someone who's been affected by some reformist ideas, or is unaware, or his mind has become too logical or rational to accept the statement of all these great muhaddis. Another thing you might hear is a historian called Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun, a lot of people will quote him, a lot of people on YouTube page, they don't understand, but I mean, the keyboard warriors on the comment section just mentioned, we've heard Ibn Khaldun said this. First of all, Ibn Khaldun was a muhaddis, He was merely a historian. Second of all, wherever he's mentioned a couple, 2 or 3 points, they're all weak and have all been refuted. The great Hakim Ummah, Allama Zafar al-Uthmani, and many others have compiled a full books just to deny his thoughts about Imam Mahdi Islam, and they've all mentioned being mutawatir. So the point is, don't let this statement, you will come across this statement, maybe you'll mention it, do not let this statement affect your belief in any shape, way or form, inshallah. So, inshallah, just to conclude with, because today is the day, well, we don't believe in, but what they're saying is the day of Christmas. So in regards to Christmas, many of you have probably read, heard, watched on YouTube the reality, the history. I mean, we have access to social media, so we already know. But just as a recap, just in case someone's forgot some points, or somebody doesn't even know. So their own historians, this is not from the history books of Muslims who have making things up. This is from their own books. One book mentioned is a National Geographic book called An Uncommon History of Common Things. Has also mentioned the historical roots of Christmas, and that there is no shred of evidence that this day, the 25th of December, is the actual birth of Isa alayhi salam. If there is, I will give a year to prove it with evidence that any Christian historian has mentioned that 25th of December is actually his birth. This birth actually has roots in the pagan traditions. So this was actually, there was no mention of this for the first 4 centuries in the Christian religion. The first 4 centuries of the Christian religion, there was no mention of this. The reason why there was someone known as Pope Julius, he was the first person to appoint this date as the birth of Isa alayhi salam. And this was to appease the pagans of that time. It's because they didn't want to, the Romans were not always Christians. There was a point when the Romans became Christians. So before they became Christians, this is a festival that they used to celebrate. So they didn't want to leave the celebrations. So what happened is they Christianized it. And this is no surprise of many other things they brought into Christianity that were not found in the scriptures. So in this festival, and it was actually the festival, it was a Shirqiyya festival, Kufriyya, a festival of great disbelief. Someone might say that, okay, we're not, if the Christians, if there's no roots, historic roots in Christianity, we can follow it. Because if we're not following, when you mentioned you do not follow the non-believers, we're not following the Christians because we just proved that they don't follow this. But it's a double-edged sword because, okay, even if you claim you're not imitating the Christians, you're imitating the pagans. It's even worse. It's 2 things. You're copying, imitating the Christians, and also, at the same time, it has roots in paganism, shirk. And at the same time, someone might hear the same comment that, I don't believe in it, it's fine. I don't believe in it, I can't. But the point is that it's obvious because if you believed in it, you wouldn't be Muslim in the first place. When the Prophet ﷺ discusses, as in a hadith I've discussed, not to copy them, he's not talking about the belief, don't believe in that, that's already there, you're Muslim. He's talking about the imitation. Whether you believe in it or not, the imitation is still valid and is still something that is not allowed in Sharia. So we see the Christmas trees and giving presents and decorating them and all these kind of deeds they carry out. Sadly, some of us might carry out due to ignorance or just not enough information. These were all part of the pagan festival where people used to decorate an evergreen tree with red berries, used to give presents, and it was a day where a lot of the rules were abandoned, where there were such disgusting acts which I cannot mention here. You can search up for yourself. These to carry out on that day. So this is the day, the 25th. This is the historical roots of the 25th, and only a sane person, and it will be a sane person after hearing all this, realize the historical roots, will he understand that this is something I should not partake in. and also encourage other people not to partake in this in any shape or form. Inshallah, there were other concepts that could be discussed today in regards to Trinity, redemption, incarnation. But what I've realized is, just one last point, I know this is stretching a bit, but if you read into the books of Christianity, you probably think we have all these incarnation and the different beliefs of the original sin, and that Jesus died for our sins, where it all came from. So read the books, you realize that they say that the founder of the modern Christianity is not Jesus, it's someone known as Saint Paul. It's Saint Paul. And Ahmad Thompson has already written in his book that it's a fictional story based on something historical. It's a fictional story based on something historical. So this Saint Paul, who was he? At the time of Jesus, when he was alive, he was actually an enemy of the disciples of Isa alayhi salam. And after Isa passed away, he claimed to accept Christianity. You can find this in the books, in the American book. And what was this connection to the 12 disciples? So before, the disciples were actually with him at the beginning. He didn't come out with all these this new theology inside Christianity. So before, there was a certain meeting, the meeting council of Jerusalem, where he brought forward these different type of ideas and theological innovations. So before the meeting, 2 disciples passed away. So we were left with 10. After the meeting, and 7, we have no narrations about them, what happened to them. So now there's 9, there's 3 left. And 2 actually opposed him. 2 disciples opposed him after he brought forward these different views. And another one died after. So this person, who is now known as the founder of Christianity, St. Paul, in his life was an enemy of these people. And after the Council of Jerusalem, he came around these views. You can see from this that none of the disciples were in his favor, and they were against him. So may Allah give us the tawfiq to truly understand Islam and not be taken away or overwhelmed by social media or whatever someone throws at us to believe what is true. And it's very important that we stay connected to the scholars, the true scholars of Deen. This is why you will learn true Islam. You will not be confused. You hear the statement saying that when someone stays in the place of the company of a pious person, one benefit is at least he will die with Iman. At least he will die with Iman. And it makes sense. It makes sense because if you're staying with a pious person, you'll be committing sins. Secondly, generally, you will prepare some knowledge, so you will learn stuff. When you know stuff, it's difficult to get confused. And if you are confused, he will help you answer the questions. So it's very important that we stay connected. I just like to finish on one point. One of Khababs I mentioned in Hashim last week or the week before. He mentioned that Islam has came to change the world. Not in our lives, it has came to change the world. So let's not adapt to the world. Adapt to Islam, adapt to your religion. Don't say we need to adapt to the times, adapt to Islam. Islam has came to change the world. Do not let the world change Islam.